astronauts are on their way to Mars, seeking a new home, while confronting the lethal organic life of the Red Planet. The commander of the mission, Kate Bowman, narrates the dire situation on Earth in the year 2025. By 2000, humanity had inflicted irreversible damage with pollution and overpopulation, prompting scientists to dispatch unmanned probes carrying bioengineered algae to Mars. These were intended to grow, produce oxygen, and ultimately allow human habitation. For 20 years, the mission went smoothly, but then, unexpectedly, Mars oxygen levels began to plummet without reason. Now, the global community has united to send astronauts to Mars for investigation, marking the first manned mission. Alongside Bowman, the team includes Chentios, the chief science officer, Santon, the hot-headed co-pilot, Gallagher, the mechanical engineer, Birchinall, the bioengineer, and Pettingill, the terraforming expert. They are joined by a military robot named Amy, designed to assist in navigating Mars. They board a spaceship, dubbed Mars 1. After 93 days of space travel, various relationships develop aboard the spacecraft. Tensions arise between Pettingill and Santon, while Gallagher and Chentios stroll through the ship. Gallagher recalls childhood lessons on sailing and navigating by stars, and Chentios expresses his frustration that science hasn't answered his most profound questions, leading him to explore philosophy in search of God. Bowman exits the shower, only to encounter Gallagher, who awkwardly tries to flirt with her, creating romantic tension. Later, Gallagher and Pettingill check on Amy, suspecting the military may have retained her lethal programming. Gallagher proves this true, but reveals that it has been switched to navigation mode. Gallagher and Birchinall attempt to brew vodka in secret, only for Bowman to catch them. Instead of punishment, she surprisingly joins them for drinks. Amid their revelry, Birchinall jokingly suggests they take over Mars, assigning titles, making Bowman the queen responsible for producing air, which offends her. Mars 1 enters Mars orbit, and the team prepares for a shuttle descent to the surface, where they will stay at an installation called HAB, constructed 6 months before their arrival. Just as they prepare to descend, a solar flare strikes, causing radiation damage to Mars 1. Bowman orders everyone to the safe area while she manages the crisis. Fortunately, the flare passes without injury, but the ship's systems are severely compromised, leaving them stranded with no power. With few options, Bowman instructs the crew to suit up and take the shuttle to the HAB while she secures the ship. However, she discovers the shuttle needs a manual release due to the power loss, compelling her to remain behind. Despite crew protests, she insists they proceed. As the shuttle launches, Santon learns the auto-navigation system is damaged and must steer manually. He overshoots their destination, landing in treacherous mountains. The landing gear drops, carrying Amy, and upon landing, a bag bursts, leading to a harsh impact. Meanwhile, in Mars 1, the power loss disrupts artificial gravity and ignites multiple fires. Bowman struggles to extinguish them in zero gravity, ultimately securing the airlock to expel smoke and flames. On the ground, the crew assesses their situation, realizing they lack navigation without Amy. Tensions rise as Pettingill blames Santon for their rocky landing, while Chentios discovers he has sustained a ruptured spleen. Back on the ship, Bowman employs her engineering skills to restore power. Gallagher references the HAB's last images to locate it relative to their position, realizing time is critical as they only have 7 hours of oxygen left. Chentios picks up a rock, recalling his hope to find a divine message on Mars. He discloses his injury and insists the others leave him behind. Gallagher bids him farewell as the crew sets off. On Mars, Bowman attempts to re-establish communication with the crew, but receives no response. Meanwhile, Birchinall notes the absence of the algae they sent to Mars over 2 decades ago. He finds it odd that no signs of decomposition remain. It's as if the algae was never present. Gallagher suggests they might be in a region where the algae didn't grow, but Pettingill clarifies that this entire area should be covered with it. Amy activates inside the wreckage, albeit damaged, constantly toggling between military and navigation modes. He sends out a drone to locate the crew. Bowman, anxious about their absence from the designated landing site, discovers the wreckage and Chentios' body, increasing her concern. As the crew continues walking, they sense movement in the dirt around them. They spot HAB and cheer, but despair strikes when they see its destruction. Back on Mars 1, Bowman observes the same destruction and sends a message to Earth detailing the dire circumstances. As oxygen levels dwindle, the crew accepts their fate. Santon tries to absolve himself, insisting he wasn't at fault for their predicament, but Pettingill calls out his arrogance, escalating into a fierce argument. In the chaos, Pettingill, inadvertently pushes Stanton off a mountain, leading to shock and guilt. Returning to Gallagher and Birchnall, he claims it was suicide. As oxygen levels reach critical lows, the crew prepares for death. Yet, in a moment of panic, Gallagher removes his helmet, discovering he can breathe the air. They all follow suit, realizing there's oxygen, despite the algae's absence. Back on Mars 1, Bowman receives a communication from Earth, informing her she has 31 hours to depart before fuel runs out. The crew learns about an old Mars rover nearby, which can be used to radio Bowman. They resolve to search for it the following day. That night, Amy locates the crew, and upon inspection, they find her processor is damaged. They plan to dismantle her and use her drone, but she switches to military mode and attacks. In the struggle, she injures Birchnall, revealing her programming designed to slow them down while she picks them off one by one. The next morning, they find the rover and manage to contact Bowman. Transmissions are slow due to old frequencies, but just as Gallagher is about to give up, Bowman responds. He updates them on the situation and devises a plan for their rescue. Bowman informs them about a Russian probe that landed nearby and instructs them to reach it within 19 hours, or risk being stranded indefinitely. The crew heads toward the probe, and Bowman reminisces about a near-kiss moment with Gallagher that she turned away from. As they near the probe, Birchnall claims he senses movement in the ground, but the others see nothing. Unbeknownst to them, Amy is secretly trailing them. Bowman privately contacts Gallagher, revealing that the probe can only accommodate 2 people. As they reach the probe, a sudden ice storm forces them to take shelter in a cave. Inside, Gallagher informs them of the space limitation on the probe. He insists on being the one to remain behind, believing the scientists should return to continue their research. Pettingill, feeling distrust, bolts while the others sleep, but Amy catches and kills him, making the others watch to instill fear. Gallagher and Birchnall search for Pettingill, discovering algae only in this location. They take the radio from his lifeless body, just as peculiar insects emerge, burning Birchnall as he tries to open Pettingill's suit. Birchnall realizes the insects are consuming the algae and producing oxygen, explaining the breathable air. He collects a sample to bring back home, fulfilling the mission's purpose. As they continue, Birchnall begins to bleed, realizing the insects are devouring him from within. He sacrifices himself, using a torch to incinerate the insects before handing the sample to Gallagher, urging him to return it to Earth. Gallagher finally reaches the Russian probe, preparing to escape, but discovers the batteries are dead. He shares a heartfelt farewell with Bowman over the radio, regretting not kissing her when he had the chance. Devastated, Bowman powers down the radio, just as Amy arrives to eliminate Gallagher. In a desperate act, Gallagher decides to confront Amy, using her batteries to launch the probe. He sets a trap with the probe's fuel, successfully ensnaring Amy. With her battery, Gallagher launches the probe, racing into space. Though it misses Mars 1 in orbit, Bowman notices and rushes to rescue him. He manages to bring him aboard, but he is unresponsive. In a tense moment, she performs CPR until he revives, and together, they brace for their long journey home to Earth.